couple options. Originally I designed this to hold some flatware, some wooden eating utensils. And you can get this laser engraved if you're buying the kit. Just send me a message with what the initials you want on there should be. But I really like it with the wands in it as well. Throw a scroll in that back pocket. I think that looks pretty cool. And you can do like in half and half. Wands tend to stretch that out just a little bit more. So you can spray it and shrink it down a little if you want, but it works just fine. So you can cast spells and eat. Wizards need their soup. Hope you like it. You're going to cut your parts out, or if you have a kit, they'll all be cut out for you. We'll start with these two. That very top hole on the top and the very bottom hole won't be going through that panel. That'll allow us to kind of reinforce it to this back piece. You're going to put a needle on each end of your thread. And 4 times the length is usually pretty good. And that second hole is where we'll start going through this part. First couple can be a little tricky. Once you get going and everything's held into place, it'll get a lot easier. And that first stitch going over the edge, I usually like to go over twice, so I'll come back up that first hole again. Come back down. Something I like to do if I have a little end that needs to be sewn, instead of sewing down here and tying a knot, you can backstitch however you want to do this. But something I like to do is just stop at that point with both needles and just go a single needle down and back up so I can tie a little knot right there. And if you follow it and kind of take a look at these holes, it'll actually look like you just continued on down with both needles. You just have to be kind of diligent about which side of the thread you come up on here. And anytime I get to an edge, I always look at the other one, make sure I do it the same. Sometimes I forget to go twice. That way everything's exactly the same. So with the angle of the holes, I want to come up on this side of that hole. So I'll kind of take a look and make sure I fall on that side of the thread. And then same with this one, I want to be on that top side of the hole. So just kind of be gentle, make sure I get on that side. You can see it's got that angle to the stitches. Fall on the top here. It's still got that angle. Looks like I went all the way down. Now I can tie that knot, come in between the layers and tie that knot back a little bit so it won't show. I almost always put a little dab of glue on a knot. Just a very small dab of glue, just to make sure that knot stays. Might not be real necessary, but I'd rather overdo things than risk having something come undone. Then I don't have to worry about cutting those super close either. If I just get them out of the way, we're good to go. You can tap that a little bit with a mallet. Next we're going to sew that piece on the end of that one But something that can help a little bit is if you're having trouble coming through the back side, is just open those up a little bit. So like before, you can backstitch. And if I backstitch, I like to start on this end and go back. Like start here, go back, so it looks like it's the same on both sides if I'm doing that. However, I'm going to do the same thing I did before and just follow back down with one needle and tie a knot in the back. Tie another little knot, throw a little dab of glue on there. Now we're going to sew, and I'll probably take a few of those stitches off of the pattern. I don't need to go down so far. But we're going to start on the end and work our way around, lifting these up out of the way along that to form that little pocket. And if you need to add just a little bit of moisture right there, be careful not to get it too wet. You can to help it bend. And like I said, I have extra holes on this one. I'm going to take them off the pattern, but I'll probably go down to about here. So you'll be starting on what would be the first hole on the pattern, obviously. But be careful not to bend these too hard. And you can bend this back a little too to get in there. I think I'll go that far. So I'll take those last 5 out of the pattern. And the kits won't have it either. So you would go just to the last hole, which will be right there. And then I'll come through these 2 layers and tie a knot again. Now you could just backstitch. You know what? I'm just going to backstitch. And when I backstitch, I usually go like 3 or 4. Now we'll just sew around that bottom edge and add this in there. So this will be wrapped around, but in between the 2 layers. But I'll kind of get that started just a little bit and make sure I don't have to get those wet at all. Because then I would just very lightly mist it and let it sit aside. And with this one again, that first hole, we don't go through that front panel. You'll see there's a little bit of slack in that top piece to form those pockets. So you can give it just a little bit of a bend so they line up a little easier. Going through twice over that edge. And when I'm coming through the hole, since these 2 parts need a little bit of help lining up, I'll come through and pinch right next to it so that this needle will just easily fall right back through. So all the way down to those two marked holes, you'll notice the difference in the pattern, so you can mark them. If you're doing the kit, those will be the hole punched holes, the round holes versus the slits. So we'll stop and then we'll add this part. And anytime I come to an edge, I'll check the opposite side, see if I remember to go over twice, just so I can make it exactly the same. Which I did go twice, so I will go through again here. I just wanted to point out where it starts sewing onto the back part. It basically comes off of that, and then there's another hole, and then that's when it starts to stitch in it. If you just line these up, you should be fine, but I just thought I'd mention that. So these two holes are where this starts to get sewn on, and you need to make sure this is flipped the right way. It needs to be this way with the longer side up, and then we'll just flip that over and put it in between the two layers. We got to those two marked holes, and I'll bend that over a little further than it probably needs to be, just to give me some room to get this in here. Take a look at those holes, see if I can get them close. Just be careful not to damage that as you're coming through. You may need to take a look coming back as well. Now, I won't pull these too tight right away. Leave myself a little bit of slack. Push through to this side. Make sure you're going through all three layers. And that's it. Pull good and tight so you get them back ones. You can put maker stamps or anything right there. Tool a little something right there, initials, whatever. So again, if I was going to backstitch, I would have started here so both sides look like they were backstitched, just so it's uniform. But with this, I'm going to do that same thing again. Just go down with one needle and come back so I can tie a knot back a little further. Looks good. I'll come in between the layers and tie a little knot. And that's it. This can do some really cool stuff. If you want to throw wands and like a scroll in it, you can. And you can see I laser engraved initials on it. So if you buy the kit and you send me a message, I can laser engrave your initials on that part right there. But originally, I designed this to hold some silverware, some wooden eating utensils. You can throw a couple extra things in these other pockets. You can do that, or you can put a couple wands in it. kind of like how this one looks. And you can even kind of go half and half. You want a wand and a spoon? Sure. The only thing to keep in mind is if you throw some wands in it, you can stretch this out a little bit. So if you're going to go back to some spoons, maybe you can even spray a little, get it moist, and then it'll shrink back down. But it'll be just a little bit looser. But you can go with a little bit of both worlds.